Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Those Were the Days, the show where we talk a little bit about classic TV that we love, you love, maybe everybody loves. And as part of this month, we are going across the across the border for some of these shows, but this show in particular, we're going across the pond to jolly old England. Is it jolly? I don't know. According to the scenery in Blackadder, I don't know how happy anybody was, but that's the show we're doing tonight. And I'll be your king, who you may have heard is a horrible king who's deformed and eats his children or whatever, but that is not the whole story. Here to tell the rest of this story with me are my fellow kings, queens, and knights. Let's start with Audie.
Hello there, good dear Saint Peter. So I have a request for you and our dear Lord in heaven here, Almighty God. I assume you saw the way I was most unceremoniously killed down there on Earth. Right, my idiotic nephew cut off my head. Little turd that I was in my royal armor and cape attempting to steal his horse. Little bugger was off taking a piss and thought me common anything. Anyways, I would like permission from the Almighty, or if it is in your purview to grant such a request, to go back down to Earth in ghostly form and haunt the little dweeb for however long I'm allowed to before I enter into the pearly gates of heaven for the rest of eternity. I can? Splendid! He'll regret ever thinking himself such a man worthy to be lord of anything. Oh, what's that? The only condition is that only my nephew may see me. That's perfectly fine. He's the only one I'm interested in interacting with for his last brief venture. Well, very well. Toodaloo, good man, or say, sir, and I will see you. Well, now, how exactly does time work when you're no longer living?
That's amazing. And we also have the wonderful Travis.
Script department, Kevin speaking. Hello, Mr. Atkinson. Right, yeah. No, it's super exciting. You're shooting the new show. You want a couple of alternates for a line in the script? Yeah, which line is it again? Okay. Right. Okay, all right. So, right. What do you think of this? Okay. Before suiting up in armor, make sure you've taken care of business. No one wants to face battle with an urgent call of nature. Remember, warriors, before donning armor tomorrow, ensure your bowels are as fortified as your breastplate. No? To all those gearing up for battle, heed this advice. Empty your tanks before strapping on your armor, lest you find yourself in a crappy situation. No? Before encased in metal, make sure you've unloaded all excess baggage, because nothing ruins a knight's day like a sudden code brown. Wow. To all my fellow knights, a reminder. Before donning armor tomorrow, make like a catapult and unload your payload. Hello? Hello? Everyone's a critic.
Finally, last but not least, Amy.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our British comedy. In podcasting, there is nothing so becomes a man as modest silliness and historical inaccuracies. But when the blast of old TV blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the house cat. Curl up on the couch, summon up the snacks.
That is amazing. That's perfect. That's everything we need. I agree. Summon the cat. Perfect. Thank you all for your wonderful intros. As always, we're here to talk about a little bitty show that came out of the UK in the 1980s. 1983, I believe, is the airing of the first Blackadder. Now, this is a show starring Rowan Atkinson, who many might know as Mr. Bean. Your kids might know as the guy who battled the bee in the latest Netflix miniseries, which highly recommended. We're not talking about new stuff, but I'm just saying the bee was pretty fun. I had a good time. If you like Three Stooges like slapstick humor. But Rowan Atkinson is a beloved character, even across the pond over here, where we have a good old time with him. But yeah, this show aired in 1983. I've been talked to about it a million times by my sister-in-law, who's like, "How have you not seen Blackadder?" Much in the same voice that they give me when they're like, "How have you not sat through Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail?" I don't know what to tell you. I just missed it somehow because, well, it aired before I was born is one reason, but otherwise because I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I don't know where British TV comes from. Falls out of the sky every now and
It's
then.
it falls into that category of things that, like, if you don't have that person to introduce you to it, like, I just started reading Discworld,
Oh
and,
yeah.
like, I should have read it by
Right.
now, but
Hmm.
I realized I was like, the person who would have introduced me to it is my older sister, and, she hasn't read it either. And so it's like, all it takes is to, like, miss out on that one person that's like, "Hey, hey, here's this thing. You gotta
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this thing."
Hmm.
It's
That
Absolutely.
really
older
easy.
cousin, that older sibling, that
Yeah,
uncle or aunt or somebody that was into that thing, or a parent even,
yeah,
and they're like, check this out.
Yeah.
yeah.
Very much so. We're not going to randomly come across this on US TV. There's got to be
Yeah.
somebody to introduce. A very good point. But as we typically do, I would like to know. I have no familiarity with this show at all, but I want to know what you guys might know about it. So we'll go backwards from our intros. And Amy, how about you? You ever heard of this thing?
So I've heard of it. It it falls into this category of shows that people who know me, like, think that I have watched, like, they assume. Like,
Hmm.
they're
Mhm.
like, obviously, who have watched this thing. And then I have to tell them, "No, I have not." And I also realized, about 10 minutes in, it was about 10 seconds in, I realized that all week preparing for the show, my brain was now I knew it was Rowan Atkinson and I knew, like, the gist, but then also somehow my brain was connecting it to Red Dwarf, which I also haven't seen. And so it was like a weird amalgamation in my head for the week until I watched it. So that was a whole thing. Um, yeah. So I don't particularly have a history
Yeah.
with
Uh,
this myself.
Travis, how about you?
I mean, I knew of Blackadder. I've seen bits and pieces here and there, clips and stuff. There's one from a later edition of it where Hugh Laurie is in, um, that I've seen a clip of a bunch, but I never like watched it itself. Although I love Rowan Atkinson, um, and Brian Blessed, who's in this
Yeah.
episode, and then later on,
Hmm.
when Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, and the rest of them kind of came along, Miranda Richardson. So I love everybody involved in it. It was one kind of the same thing. I didn't have anybody to introduce this to me, and so I just never sought it out. Um, but yeah, I had a
The
real good time.
list, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, perpetually on the list was Blackadder.
Audie, how about you?
I seem to be in the same boat as everybody else. I
Yeah.
did not watch it at all. Didn't know. I was trying to think about it. I don't even remember when I first heard about it, but it was definitely at least after college. I think as I started listening to more podcasts and nerd circles, and somebody here or there would bring it up and talk about it, and be like, "Oh, you've never watched Blackadder, blah blah blah," and it's like, "Yeah, okay." And I was like, okay, whatever that is, and eventually
Yeah.
we'd go look it up, or like try to see a clip here or there. It's funny, an old
Mhm.
high school buddy of mine posted on Facebook that he loved the show, and I was like, wow, you know the show? Oh wait, your mom is English, of course you know what the show is. So, um, but yeah, this is my first time ever watching Blackadder.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we're in for a treat. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because look, I've talked to people a million times about this. People tell me, Steven, have you ever watched Monty Python? I was like, I have tried to watch Monty Python and fallen asleep in every attempt, or
Here's the thing.
otherwise got bored. Yeah, go ahead.
Especially the show, like Monty Python's Flying Circus. It's not as good as people remember because people
Mm-hmm.
only remember the really good bits. It's like
Yeah.
Saturday Night
Mhm.
Live, right? Like the
Yes.
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
good bits will make it to YouTube or, Instagram, and that's great. But like they throw a lot of stuff at the wall, which is great, but it does not all hit
Yeah.
at all. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it too just makes references that we cannot it's like when we watched Laugh-In. right?
Yeah.
Like we cannot make the we do not have the information to make this be funny.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We're missing the pieces that connects the setup to the punchline.
Yeah.
Uh,
The movies
Mhm.
are pretty good though.
yeah, because the movies have a through line. It's kind of common, you know, what you're doing. It's different than sketches, which are often socially informed by
Yeah.
their times and by the news. And um,
And not only that, but sketches are hard because like short form like that, it's hard to tell a story. So
yeah,
you basically have to have a joke and build something around it. The same thing happened with like Kids in the Hall, right? Kids in the Hall is great,
Mhm.
but there are definitely sketches in Kids in the Hall that don't work. That
yeah.
don't work at all. Any sketch show is going to have that. In Living Color had it.
Hmm.
And Monty Python's Flying Circus certainly did. But if and when you watch it, you do like I do have the memories of the things that did work, and also
Oh,
like what
sure.
I had on cassette because they
Hmm.
would the best of stuff would make it onto the records
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all of that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
people know the Ministry of Silly Walks. I mean, I laughed at that. The Dead
The
Parrot
dead
sketch.
parrot sketch. Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Dead Parrot always
Mhm.
shows up. The spam thing never got me. I get that it's a thing, but it was just it's too absurd. Some British stuff is
I
just
mean, that's what
goes
it is. Yeah.
deep into
It's
the
just straight
absurdity,
absurdist.
but it's past where I can follow it. Like I will follow you to the mountains, and I'm like, yeah, never mind. I got to get
Oh,
off at
see,
the
that's
river.
funny. After the whole thing with Twin Peaks,
Right?
and you
Yeah.
right, and I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like British humor. I'm like, yes, give it to
See,
me, put it in my
it's
veins.
this is the fascinating thing to me. Like you would think, yeah, the Twin Peaks had me hooked, but it was like a different kind of absurdity that
Yeah.
I don't know why the Brit. I really, and it's sad because I want to love it. I want to love Life of Brian and Holy Grail and just all the Monty Python shenanigans. But there just comes a point somewhere in that movie that I just somewhere after the Black Knight and the flesh wound and all that, I just lose it. I can't hang in there. And it's not that I don't want to bury the lead here, but Blackadder had me at the beginning, chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. This is great. And about 15 minutes in, I found myself going, "Huh, there's another 15 minutes of the show," which is a shame because it's. But we're gonna explore it. We're gonna explore the show because, like,
Yeah.
right out of the gate, I'm getting told what this show is about. Like, it's a medieval. At least this
Hmm.
season,
Mhm.
it's taking place in the medieval times with King Richard III is the king, and we're being told that Henry Tudor, Henry VII, Henry the whatever, has made up most of the history surrounding. You think King Richard III is some kind of disfigured monster who mutilates his nephews and children. But that's not true. And the rubber knife bit right at the beginning just killed me
Really
down. I was
good.
like, all right.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was no missing what this show was going to be about. And then, like, his hunchback
Yep.
was actually a bag of presents for the children. I was like, okay.
Mhm.
I loved that gag because they did it again during his speech.
It's just so good. Yeah, things keep coming around. I also got tickled because I'm currently listening, thanks to y'all's recommendation. I think it might have been Amy or Travis, can't remember. Making It So, Patrick Stewart's
Mm.
autobiography.
Mhm.
And he went to drama school with Brian Blessed. Brian Blessed was like 4 years older
Oh,
than
wow.
him, but they were tight at school. Like they were best buds.
Brian Blessed is one of my favorite people on the entire planet. If you have not heard him talk about hunting the Yeti, you have to go find it. He is incredible. And I don't know if you guys have seen Jack Black lately, but
Mhm.
he has entered his Brian Blessed era, and I am
Yes.
so
Yes.
excited about it. But Brian
Ye-
Blessed is an incredible, like, Rowan Atkinson is funny. I love Mr. Bean, but I can take Rowan Atkinson in very small doses. Like him in there was that movie, I think it was in the 90s, where it was like one of those Amazing Race type
Rat
shows, but
Yeah, it
Race.
was Rat
Rat
Race.
Race.
Yeah. Rat
Like
race.
that's about the level of where I'm at with Rowan Atkinson. Like that's great. Like I love Mr. Bean, but those are like super short. It's great.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
watch a
They're
couple
short,
and then I'm out.
but also like with Rowan Atkinson here, it's the voice he's putting on, and like he's playing this sniveling character, and
Yeah.
that can be grating very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Later seasons of this, because I've seen clips from other things, he's much more like intelligent and conniving, and it's kind of it's a
Sure.
different iteration of Edmund that
Yeah.
is a little easier to deal with, I think.
Okay.
So that is definitely because I agree with you. There's times where
I'm like,
Rowan
okay,
Atkinson
all
can be
right,
too much.
okay.
Mhm.
Brian Blessed though, give me all
Brian
the Brian
Blessed,
Blessed you
right
can.
in my veins. Everything.
His
I
voice,
love
like
him.
he's got that booming voice,
Yep.
and I always forget how big his teeth are, and like his mouth. It's just all mouth, and it's
It's
amazing.
it was awesome seeing him because the only thing I knew him from before this was Tarzan. So it was like
Oh,
I
I was gonna say
immediately
Flash
knew the
Gordon.
voice. I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh my gosh, that's him. Holy crap."
I
Well,
was so excited because I didn't know he was in it. Like I knew Rowan Atkinson was in it, and that was about it. And so when he like shows up on the screen, I was like, "That's Brian Blessed. This is gonna be great."
Mhm.
See, I didn't know. I knew Brian Blessed's name, but I couldn't place him. I actually had to go look him up on IMDb. Like, which person is Brian Blessed? And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I see. But maybe it's because the things I've watched, I just haven't. He hasn't been circling my universe quite
True.
like he might have to other people. But yeah, I
But
can
really,
get.
the Yeti hunting story.
I'm
you
going
have
to. I'm going to
find
look
it.
that up.
It's really
Definitely. It's funny that you mentioned that Rowan Atkinson played this kind of sniveling, difficult to kind of tolerate character because according to the
Mhm.
trivia from IMDb, Rowan Atkinson didn't know who this character was up till 10 minutes before the cameras were rolling, and he
Seems
had to
about right.
figure out
Mhm.
what he was gonna do. Which is Rowan Atkinson is incredibly talented. There's some things that I've seen from him that are outside of Mr. Bean. The Invisible Drummer on YouTube, like go look that up
Yes.
on YouTube. That is
Mhm.
just some level of talent I'm unable to understand.
He's a great physical comedian
Yes,
Yeah,
he
for
is.
is.
sure.
unbelievably good. And I mean, I'm one of the people that was really excited when they announced a Johnny English 3. Like, I love the guy. I think Johnny English killed me dead. I felt like, which is so funny. Like, I it's like the Americanized version of Rowan Atkinson. I'm all about. Like it's like when they put him over here
Yeah.
and they kind of tweak it just a little bit, so that it's more American humor. Like we can get it. Like there's so much in the British silliness that I can't get. Um, but anyway, this whole show is about the rewritten history of Edmund, uh, and the king and all these things that happen. And I took the best notes I could, but somehow this is anti-note television. Like as I'm watching
Yeah.
it, I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know what to write down. I'm both enjoying myself, but I'm also confused, and I don't know what what are these moments because there's like this collections of chaos and quips, chaos and quips. That's
Mhm.
what this is all kind of encompasses, and I don't know how to take notes on it. So I'm gonna do my best to work my way through this. But I know one of the first scenes we start at is the description of what the show's about, and then the dinner table where they're discussing the battle that they're going to have the next day at the field. And they're talking to each other about this battle. Edmund, are you going to battle with us? Oh, I thought I was going to battle for the enemy. Like, what? What? Okay, there we go. And then they refer to him as a little turd, which tickled me.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
got a kick out of that.
I love that whole exchange. Who is that at the end of the table? It's your other son. It's my other son. What's his name?
Edna.
Edna.
That was great.
I wanna talk about the writing credits for a hot second before we get too deep.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So this
Mhm.
was written by Rowan Atkinson. It was also written by Richard Curtis. And let me give you some of Richard Curtis's other credits. So he wrote the Boat That Rocked, which was pirate radio here in the US, which is one of my
Mm.
top 10 films. Four Weddings and a Funeral, which
Holy
is
crap.
just phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um I thought there was one more that was really before I did the final coup de grace of Love Actually. He wrote Love Actually. And he wrote this.
Didn't he
But
write
even
a?
Good
better than all
lord.
of that.
Did
Even better
he?
than all of that.
Yeah.
And Notting Hill and Bridget Jones's
Yeah.
Diary.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Yeah. And then even better than that is that William Shakespeare gets an additional dialogue credit.
Yes. And
Oh,
Outstanding.
I loved all of that. Every time there would be a line
I
either
was doing
slightly
the I was doing
altered
the Leonardo
in
DiCaprio like point at
yeah.
the screen.
I think my favorite one is probably a horse A horse. My kingdom for a horse
Kingdom for a horse.
That was
was
good.
fantastic. That or the summer of our sweet content.
Yes.
Man, this
Ah.
guy's a beast. Like once you
Yeah.
said Love Actually and stuff, I was like, wait, did he write About Time? He wrote About Time. That is
Yeah.
hands down,
Dang.
like in my top 5 greatest movies of all time. Like I will watch.
Agreed.
That's comfort movie right there.
Agreed.
Yeah. So okay, all right, we got some good folks
This is what I'm
behind
saying.
this.
This is some serious power.
Yeah, Richard Curtis. I knew that name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Should have looked it up. You know, that's
from everything.
Yeah.
You know.
that's what proper researchers for their podcast do.
That's fine. Don't
Like,
even
I'm
worry
not-
about it.
no, I've got 3 brilliant other people around me.
Yeah.
This is the Channing Tatum School of Acting. Surround yourself with really great actors, and that's how you make it. But yeah, so we're sitting there. There was a joke about where we'll string the genitalia in the Rutland tree, referring to the enemy. I think I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
Edmund talking about how he might if he was killed.
Yeah,
Oh,
if they
yeah, that's
lost,
right.
he would have his arms and sent to
Mhm.
Essex and his
That's
torso
right.
to Norfolk. His genitalia run up a tree in Rutland.
But the follow-up joke was great when he was
Follow-up
talking
joke
about
is so
how will they
good.
know I'm a man? Well, your genitalia are up that tree. So.
Yeah, they
just
can go
look
look
at
up
that
the
tree.
Really, they threw out another punchline about the genitalia in the Rutland tree again, which it just kept giving. It was just the joke that just kept giving. There's a lot more blood.
There were
in
so
this,
many of those.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more blood in this show than I expected. Like in American TV, like most of the time you just can't show blood. You know, it's
Certainly can't decapitate someone,
no with
even
blood.
even
Oh.
humorously.
Yeah, there's not a lot of decapitation happening in America. So this has shocked me. Like, as we're known for horrendous violence in our
Yeah.
media, but if you do violence with a sword, it's different. It's okay. Ashley and I were having this discussion on Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, the other show that I do that you should go listen to every once in a while, about this. Well, we can't let them do gun stuff, but swords are just fine. You have to be in close proximity for
You got what
sword
you're
play.
doing.
Yeah, you gotta be talented for sword play.
Mhm.
One thing I did take note of is the ADR was spectacular. On that windy hill, nobody was recording with a microphone live up there, but they were doing a fantastic job lip syncing it up because I believed it. It was better ADR than I
Yeah.
saw in a made-for-TV movie the other night. Night of the Twisters. You can go check that junk out. That was like a made for sci-fi TV. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's on YouTube for free.
Made for sci-fi TV that tells me everything I need to know.
From the
Yeah,
90s.
Pretty much.
Like when they had $8 to make a movie. Not 8,000, $8.
Just 8.
To
Yeah.
be fair, this show also has that classic BBC budget.
Yeah.
but
So
they
here's the
stretched
funny
that
thing
budget.
about that.
Oh, they did.
But the funny thing about that is this series of it, the Atkinson had said that they had like £1 million to make it, and the subsequent series almost didn't happen because the guy that became the head of the BBC didn't like the show and was going to axe it, and they convinced him to do another one, but he cut back the budget and he cut back the cast. Like, so you didn't have as many extras. There was characters, but there weren't as many extras, and the budget was slashed. So this was actually higher budget than where it went. But I think the show got better in a lot of people's minds, including Rowan Atkinson. He even said like he didn't think the first series was as good, and it got better later on. But yeah, it had that classic like they're riding up the hill for the battle, and you see a couple of flags, and then it's just cut to their reactions to what's going on in the field because we can't afford to actually show a battle.
We're not.
We don't
doing
have that in the budget.
That's a lot.
That's that's where like people can learn how to shoot good stuff on a budget is what you don't have to show everything if you can make what's happening on screen or what they're talking about make it work. And I didn't even think twice about there not being a big battle. I didn't even think about it. I was just watching these guys chat, but I'm also a Kevin Smith fan, so it's easy for me to just not care. It's just, you know. to each his own. But I can just watch people talk, and I'm fascinated by the dialogue. And this dialogue was amazing, incredibly Shakespearean in the and this, like when you said William Shakespeare, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But there was something else related to Shakespeare I had read in the trivia that made me, that Blackadder's based on Edmund, the antagonist of William Shakespeare's King Lear, a scheming illegitimate son of a king who plots to take the crown for himself, which we don't really plot to take the crown for himself in this so much as he just bumbles into it. So this got me good. He wakes up late in the morning to the battle, and his mom knocks on the door. Did you want to go to the battle this morning? They're like, it's 11 o'clock. Oh no! Like this late for school setup was amazing.
The alarm clock sundial.
Yes, that got me.
Pulls the
Oh my
cover
God.
off of the sundial and looks at it. I was howling. That was too good.
Really good. That was really good. And he gets up and he goes off, rides his horse, and gets there, sees the battle going on, and oh, look, what are all those people doing? Why are they lying down and not fighting? Oh, they're dead. Oh, I just remembered something that I have to go do. I'm like, if
I
I
even
show
love the quick little joke right before that is when he's running off and he's asking his little friend, which way? It's the other way. It's like, oh, okay, let's go back the other way.
Yep.
because there's no in some field somewhere. They really weren't 100% precise on where this big battle was going to take place. So he manages to go off, and this is when things start to get interesting because he runs away from the battle. You arrive late at the battle, you see a lot of dead people, kind of takes the wind out of your sails. Like when you're all running at each other and howling, you've got the might of, I don't know, we're just going to win behind you. But when you walk up and you see that, like, this has a different feel than it would have if I was there. I mean, that's just my personal take on it.
Hard to get the adrenaline pumping at that point.
Yeah, you're kind of late for all the screaming part that really makes it work. So King Richard has lost his horse. So he's kind of wandering around, but he's definitely the king. He's got the big collar with the, the white and little dots and everything, like a cartoon. He's lost his horse. Other Richard, Brian Bless's character, Big Beard, Richard the Fourth. Is going to offer him his horse. And he's like, no. My king, I could find a horse. I'm a king, and then he begins whistling for his horse. Finds Edmund's horse tied to a tree, picketed, to use proper terminology, at the tree. And Edmund has gone off to relieve himself because apparently he didn't before the battle, as suggested.
Nope. Didn't follow his own advice.
Didn't follow the rules. So the king's like, oh, a horse. I'll just take this horse.
I mean, come on. When you wake up late, you don't have time to be before you leave. So
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, you're already in trouble, So this is when Edmund gets his one kill of the day. Sneaks up on this horse thief and decapitates him, which I did not expect. I thought we'd get like a stabbing, a slash, but no, these are the British. They're hardcore. That head rolled right off. And they were on the ground, and there was blood, and it was, oh my, what has just happened here? So he's like, oh, let's see who this is. And he picks up the head, just casually. Like this happens all the time. Picks up the head, opens the lid of the knight's helmet, and it's King Richard III. Oh no, what have I done? And then the hilarious corpse desecrating humor begins.
God, so good.
Well, and Baldric comes around because he starts screaming.
Yes,
right?
that's
And then
right,
Baldric shows up. Baldric, by the way, I loved Baldric's introduction. He's like, what do they call you? Baldric. Ah, then I shall call you,
Baldric.
Baldric.
I shall call you my lord.
But when he walks up and he just tosses him the head.
Yeah.
And he looks, and I loved his reaction because he opens, oh dear, Richard III.
I wrote that down.
So that's Tony Robinson, who I only know because he did, I want to say it was a Christmas or New Year's Celebrity British Bake Off, and he was adorable. And so I was like, oh, I don't know this man's work, but I really like him. And then I was like, oh, there he is.
Yep, he was in every iteration of Blackadder. Because technically each season of this, it wasn't like they did 4 seasons. It was 4 different stories.
Yeah.
Sure.
So they moved them through time, but he was in all of them with Rowan Atkinson.
So
Always
British
as Baldric,
TV,
some version
British
of him.
TV is fascinating to me because of the way they do series and the
They
way they
love a
view.
limited series, man.
Man,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I remember watching IT Crowd when it was done with. I was like, wait, I was already done with the. There was only 6 episodes, but there were only 6 episodes in all of the seasons. Like, what are we?
Yeah.
We hire people
Yeah.
for 6 episodes. How's this work? Over here, we're like
And then
24.
yeah, the nice thing about streaming shows now though is that a lot of times, even if like not a lot of times, but frequently, if they have a big enough following but not enough for them to like pick them up, they still give them like, all right, we're not going to give you a 12 episode season, but here's 4 so that you can wrap up your loose ends.
Yeah,
So
there you
that's
go.
at
And-
least something.
Yeah,
Yeah, and honestly, I like a season to be as long as it needs to be.
sure.
Like,
Right.
I understand the old network model was 22, 24 episodes a season, something like that. The
Right.
problem you can run into there is depending on the type of show, you can get filler episodes. Now,
So much filler.
Oh,
Mhm.
filler
what
all over.
when shows were more episodic and less serialized, you could get away with that, right? Star Trek The Next Generation
Oh,
could get
yeah.
away with 24 episodes because they're just a bunch of bottle episodes. You don't have but like we started moving into the serialized storytelling, and now when you're doing that with more modern shows, you end up with stuff like Lost is a great concept. Lost had way too many episodes
Yeah.
because you
Mhm.
start eating your own tail at that point. So I
But
kind of
yeah.
like how other series will do that and do 6 episodes, 10 episodes, whatever it is. But yeah, it is jarring when you're not used to that. You're like, wow, this show was on the air for 6 seasons. Yeah, but it's 40 episodes total.
Yeah, and it's weird when it's a comedy because I'm used to like when it's a comedy and it's short because comedy usually always have 24 episodes and they're always funny. There's always some story to tell. But when it's a drama, I find it more annoying to have 24 episodes because you do end up with filler. And you move. There's a main through line for a season, but it only moves forward every 5 episodes. At the end, like the last 4 minutes is like, oh. Could you believe that? And you get all Smallville used to do this to me back in the day, and Gilmore Girls would just be like, "Oh, what does that happen?" Okay, but like now we've got more prestige TV, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul and The Bear and stuff. You got like shorter seasons, but more hits, more meat, to deal with. But yeah. But back to the Blackadder here. This is where the body horror comes on. They're like trying to put the head back on the body, dragging it around. And I'm
That's
just
because they like line the head up to get the head all nice, and then they pick up the feet.
Mhm.
just
and
drag
just
it.
drag it.
Well, just before that, he puts the head on. He's doing
CPR.
what kind of resuscitation, hoping that it'll
don't
put
know
the
what
head
that-
back on somehow.
You
Like,
gotta try something. You just killed your uncle, the
Yeah,
king.
he's in a
Uh-huh.
panic. That was what he said when he opened the night saying, "Oh my God, it's Uncle Richard."
Mhm.
It's just so juvenile. It's just so funny.
And I thought it was funny that the armor, the helmet, none of this gave it away until he actually lifted it up and looked at the face.
Yep.
Yeah, he's definitely dressed like a king. But here we are. So they drag the body back to like some sort of cottage, where they go in, and there's an injured man in there, right? I was slightly distracted
Yeah.
when all of
Yes.
this was going on. Yeah. So there's an injured man in there. Then they get mad because Baldric didn't bring the head with him, and they should have. And they just basically end up running away. Like we're going back to the castle to tell everybody that what's happened. He goes to the castle. He's expecting that the war, they've lost it. I mean, the king died. It's the battle is over. King Henry Tudor is going to come running in here at any moment and ravage all the women. To which his mom doesn't sound so upset about that. She's just like, oh well, I should go get a bath
Showered.
or a shower and go
I
get
haven't
cleaned
taken a
up.
bath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And everybody thinks it's going to be a bad deal, and the door's getting banged on, and it turns out it's King Richard IV. He's like, we won. The battle is over, and Edmund's in there basically trying to tell her, oh, okay, great, this is awesome. And then Edmund gets to trying to talk his way out of him saying the king is dead, right? Like he said the king is dead.
Yeah.
So
Well, he told
first we
his
get the
mom.
line. We get the
That's
line from his
right.
mom, right? Like, well, I suppose you're going to want to ravage me. Get later.
Yes.
Yes, in a
That's
few
right.
minutes.
In a few minutes.
I love the in a minute, and then he turns to
Mhm.
Prince Harry. She's insatiable.
Yeah.
There's
So
just
good.
it's just constant. It's like this is like trying to review Airplane. You're like, I don't know where.
hmm
There's just too many hits. We're just gonna have to go. But Edmund had told his mom the king is dead, and then King Richard IV's like, "What? You saw him die? No, I didn't see him die. You know, he backpedals his way. It's worse than my backpedaling to get out of this scenario."
It was in the
Uh,
river. I mean, I
yeah,
don't know that. I
not that I
wasn't
would
there. I
know.
didn't. I mean, I just. Maybe he's not. He's that. Maybe. I mean, he might not be dead.
In fact, he's not even wounded. He's
not
fine.
even- he's
Whatever.
fine.
Yeah.
And just as someone
Walking.
walks in with the body of the king, oh, okay. And I can't remember the context, but at some point the Edmund gets is all scared of what's going to happen. Then he gets all excited and he starts nodding, and I don't know why that physical gag just got me so much. But yes,
Well, he got all excited because King Richard IV says, "And we know who killed him, don't we?" And he's looking right at Edmund, and Edmund's like, "No, no, no, no." And he goes,
Mhm.
"Harry, Tudor." And he's like, "Ah, yes,
Yes.
Yep.
Such a good job with that.
And then that whole bit ends with Brian Blessed's character saying, "All right, let's go kill some war criminals or some war war prisoners."
Yeah.
And so then
It's just like, oh god.
we have this masterful scene where the secretary, I don't know, another dude, comes in with a book to
Mhm.
tally the kills. To find out, and he phrases it so wonderfully. Edmund, who did you kill? What? You know, like, oh, I thought you meant the king, but you know, he just dances
Right.
around
Yeah.
it.
Not now.
Uh, Then he has to sit there and he makes up like how many people, and he's got was it Baldric and
Baldric and Percy.
Percy
Mhm.
behind this guy trying to give him like hand signals. And like Baldric's like, you killed 4. He's like 4, and the other guy's holding up 5, like 45. Edmund.
45.
But he's like 4.
Well, because first it's
hands."
peasants.
Right.
They're mouthing peasants, and he's like
Pedants.
pedants.
Pedant. Pedants.
Pleasant peasants.
It's
Yes.
just
But
so
but they
good.
don't count
They don't
Right.
count. Only
Yeah.
in the case of a tie.
because they're getting the battlefield averages.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So it's 4 and then 5 for 45. And he's like hand 400 and like the two of them trying to just get him to oh
Mhm.
it's so good.
god, it's so good.
And then it ends with 450, and I love the reaction. Wow, it's like twice as many as anyone else.
As many as
Yeah.
I did.
And he just takes it like, oh yeah, that sounds good. It's a good
Mhm.
number. How many nobles did you kill? And they name a couple. Oh, that one was different. He was tough to kill. Oh yeah, I know. I killed him myself. You know, like there's
Right.
just these.
Uh-huh.
He starts like,
They're
well,
only
he was
points.
fighting for our side, and he can tell you that he saw me kill this other
Mhm.
guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he said I killed him myself at one point. That was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
really
yeah.
well
Yeah.
put.
It was really good.
Yeah, it was. That whole scene was wonderful. That had everything you wanted in it. And then this is where we hear the title of the show after the guy leaves. And they find the injured man from the cottage in Edmund's bed. He's like, "Oh, well, you
Because
can't
when
be
they're
here later."
leaving, he's like, "Save me! If you leave me here alone, I'm gonna die."
That's right.
And they're like,
If-
"Okay." And then he's like,
Well-
"Please, I'll pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll give you 10,000 sovereigns." And then the door just
And then
opens and Percy pokes
Percy's
his head
dead.
in.
Mhm.
And then presumably we go to commercial, is what I took
Yeah.
that weird cut to be.
Yes.
Of
Sure.
course, yeah. And then he gets his name. He calls himself the Black Vegetable, which was
Yep.
just silly. And they're like, oh, I think a different name would be better, like the Blackadder. Oh yes, the Blackadder, because he's a prince now.
Mhm.
He wasn't a prince before. Now he's a prince because
Ah.
his dad's the king.
Yep.
because he's King Richard IV. Long live the king. And he gets his new fancy pants clothes for being a prince, and his fancy
So
pants
good. It's
haircut.
the fashion montage scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Complete with the worst haircut.
Oh,
In the
Yeah.
So
action.
good, but the way they do it is so good because there's just
Oh, it's
3
amazing.
bowls on the ground.
it's just terrible. His
But
hair.
but poor Rowan Atkinson had to have that haircut for how long
Oh,
Yeah.
while they were making this? Like that's just because it wasn't a wig. You could
Oh,
tell by
it
the
was
way like his hair
yeah.
was shaved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's committed to the part.
Well, it's probably easier to
Mhm.
wear the hair than try to do that stupid voice the whole season.
Yeah.
Voice was
was-
a lot.
It was rough. His expressions, everything was rough about watching him work. Also, he's been like
Mhm.
55 years old since like 1970.
Yeah.
That guy, I
For
don't,
sure.
yeah, like I saw when I saw he was still doing like Rowan Atkinson's still alive. How old is he now?
Mhm.
100? Because he was on a James Bond movie in the 60s, and I thought he looked like an old guy. I'm like, what is this guy? Just infinite lifespan. But yeah, so the man who should be dead, who they were gonna leave, is awake in the bed, and Edmund is like, where? Who are you? You know, are you so? He's like, oh no, it wasn't important at all.
Hmm.
I'll be gone.
Wait, so
whatever.
you're not rich?
Yeah, that's right.
Rich
told
but
him he was
modest.
And then Richard shows up. King Richard, dead Richard. This
Dead
Richard.
nearly headless Nick himself, except he totally
Played
headless.
King Richard III, played by Peter Cook,
Yeah.
and fantastically. And apparently he was really nervous to do it, and then kind of like did a lot of improving. But he had worked with Rowan Atkinson before, but he was
Oh.
nervous to play King Richard
That's
in
weird.
the show for
That's
whatever
weird.
reason.
Maybe
but
it's
he
got
was-
some
I-
juju on it.
Could be, but I loved him. He was
The
great.
whole floating head bit was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
did not
God.
expect that at all.
It looked pretty good too,
Yeah.
considering how
very much
old this
so,
is.
yeah.
I was like, I
was
am
impressive.
impressed. That looks good.
Yeah, like we just did Star Wars. Like, hey, we can float heads. You want to
Yeah.
float a head? We can do
On
that.
television. Like
Yeah.
Star Wars has cinematic kind of budget. On television, we can float ahead. Yeah, sure.
Here, wrap this thing on you. All right,
Mhm.
let's go.
Yeah, so he gets to talk to King Richard, who just harasses him endlessly for
Mhm.
who he is. Because I mean, King Richard didn't like him when he was alive either. Called him a
Yeah.
little turd, which is awesome. That's just the best insult. So shortly after this, they end up at the dinner table again to celebrate the win that the battle happened. And this is the part where it gets a little squirrely because they're gonna go ahead and do the desecration of Henry Tudor, and that's when they bring in a portrait of Henry Tudor, to which Edmund realizes, oh no, that's the guy that's been in my bed this whole time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so first they put a curse on he who killed King Richard,
That's right.
Mhm.
Yep.
which is real good because they do not say, like, for a while. There's no name involved in the actual curse,
Right.
so he's
Just who
just over there
did it.
going,
Well,
"Oh
again,
boy."
we've got Ghost King Richard, who only can
Yeah, it's-
interact with Edmund. Like he's the
Yeah.
only one that sees him and knows what's going on. He keeps yelling at Edmund, "He did it! He did it!" And
Yeah,
Edmund's like, "No, I didn't." Everybody's like, "You didn't do what?"
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
it was
Again,
due south
we
all
have
over again.
I was gonna say we've got another. Someone's talking to a ghost, and nobody knows why.
We didn't plan on that 2 weeks in a row, but it happened.
Here it was. And King Richard ends up sitting in his normal seat between Richard IV and the dude who was taking notes. I can't remember everybody's name. Trying to interact with him, and they're talking through him, and he just gets perturbed that he actually can't interact with them at all. No one can hear him. So Edmund runs back to his room, and it turns out that Henry Tudor is gone. He's now ridden his horse out, and Edmund is going to take off after him. So he goes off riding after him, and then I think, if I recall, he just winds up at the Three Crones, right? We don't actually get. He doesn't catch up to Henry Tudor.
No.
No.
Yeah,
No.
he just
He gets
ends
lost
up,
in like the fog.
right. He gets lost in the fog because King Richard created the fog with a little snap.
Yeah.
He shows
Yep.
up and he snaps, and all these smoke appears in the field. And Edmund finds Crone. You gotta have crones, who
You
know stuff.
gotta
It's part
I
of the
mean,
it's part of
love
the
some
game.
good weird sisters.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, if we're gonna take from Shakespeare, let's take from
just
Shakespeare.
rob it all. So there's three crones stirring a pot, and they tell Edmund that his destiny is to be king, and he's like, "Aha, this is great," and I'm bought in. I'm like, "Yeah, all right, Edmund's gonna be king," and this is what I love about what this show did. They could have told you the whole like spin right there at the like commercial break, come back, then roll credits. But no, they wanted you to watch the credits. They wanted you to see all the names on the screen. So they did. So he's riding off. They do the whole song, which is great. The Blackadder song is fantastic. You watch the credits roll, and then we cut back to the crones. And
Yes.
they they didn't like the way this guy looked. They liked the first guy that rode by better. What did they say? They didn't like this. They didn't like Edmund because he was rude. But they liked the other guy they saw, and then they realized, oh no, we told the prophecy to the wrong
Wrong.
guy.
Right.
And then now we know Henry Tudor's destined to become king, and Edmund thinks he's destined to become king. So we got to see where these wacky shenanigans go in further episodes of Blackadder. That's the rundown. I know that I did a miserable job of giving notes on it, but it's hard for me to follow for today. But I had a good time. I laughed at a lot of it. Is there any closing thoughts? I missed any highlights you guys wanted to point out?
No, we hit everything I had
Yeah.
notes on.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I was like, this is really funny, but I don't know what to write. It's you got to watch it. You got to be in the chair. I cannot express to you the British humor as me, an American, in the right way.
It's also context because there's not
Yeah.
just like setup payoff in the jokes.
Right.
Like the whole thing where he's trying to backpedal out of saying that King Richard III was dead is great, but it's long. You can't
Right.
explain
Yeah.
it. You just have to experience it. You have to listen to him
So
because it's
uncomfortable.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
The same thing with the battlefield averages and him going over all of that. Like
Yeah.
it is a constantly growing and evolving moment. It's not just one punchline. So yeah, it is something you really do need to watch.
Yeah. And
It's
speaking
just-
of needing to watch it, do we need to watch more Blackadder? Audie, what do you think?
I don't know that I will,
Mm-hmm.
but I might watch more clips of it. I don't know. It's one of those shows that I'm just like, I don't feel the need to go watch it. But now that I know what it is, I'm not going to not watch it if it happens to be on somehow, kind
Sure.
of thing. I mean, I know I probably would need to watch it to get the story, but yeah, that's where I'm at. I could, but I don't feel like I need to.
Yeah. Awesome. Travis.
Yes, I do. I need to have this as like this is perfect background show for me.
Oh, there you go.
I could definitely see that being a thing. The kind of show that I can throw on when I'm doing stuff like painting or, something like that. Because I just love this type of show and I want to see more of it. Because again, later seasons you get Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry and Miranda Richardson all in it, and I love all of them. So, yeah, this is one I'll probably watch a little bit more of. It's like Faulty Towers, in a way. Faulty Towers is another one that I really enjoy and I can watch over and over. I can see this being that kind of thing for me.
Sure. Amy, how about you?
Yeah. Like Travis, I've got some sitting at a table painting going on, and it's like I'll certainly watch this first season through for sure because it is 7 episodes. Like, let me just hit that real quick, no problem. But yeah, I definitely think I will, if only just for more Brian Blessed because
Hmm.
he's the best.
Excellent. I myself, I don't regret watching it, but I don't think it's for me in the long run. And that's just me. Like, there's a handful of places my geek card can't go. Anime,
That's fine.
Yeah.
British
Sure.
humor.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't reach, and I hate it because I want to be a part of this community. I go to Dragon Con and there's just Doctor Who everywhere, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, I don't get it, but I really got FOMO, but not enough FOMO to actually do anything about it.
Well, I would say don't hate it because it's not your cup of tea,
Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah.
and
hate
that's
it.
fine.
It's
Like,
it was wonder. I laughed a lot. I
mhm,
don't think I'm gonna go back to the well.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny that we're split again this week
I
on
Yeah.
know. That's
sponsored
wild.
stuff.
That's good though. You get a lot of opinion.
Oh
You get
yeah,
probably people that are
hmm
going to listen to this and be like, I'm with Travis and Amy on that, and I'm with Audie and Steve.
yeah,
Yeah, that's why we have
hmm
multiple perspectives on this
right.
wonderful show, and multiple perspectives and multiple shows we talk about because we change
hmm
it
Yeah,
every
we do.
week. And next week we're going to let Amy take us somewhere else to another foreign land. What are we doing, Amy?
All right. So first, I want to give an honorable mention because it is just outside. It turns out of our window of timeline, but everyone should watch Black Books if you haven't already. It
Yes.
is you might it's British comedy, but you, Stephen, might find it a little more accessible because it is not as it's absurd in a little more toned down way. But Black Books is a phenomenal show. Um, it came out in 2000 was the first season, so it's a little outside of our range.
Mhm.
Black Books is much more in the vein of like IT Crowd.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
that
yeah,
type of
Yeah,
show.
Yes.
okay.
So if you like the IT
Absolutely.
Crowd,
I
you'd
love
like
the
Black
IT crowd.
Books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you would
So
love
that's
Black
that's
Books.
my honorable mention. So I'm going to take us back north to the most Canadian show of Canadian shows. We're going to be watching the Red Green Show. Specifically, we are going to be watching season
Wow.
9, episode 7, Coup de Grace. Is available on Amazon Prime.
For anybody who doesn't watch on YouTube or come for the live stream, there are reasons. Like Steven's reaction just now is the
I'm
perfect
so
reason for
happy.
why you should have been watching this.
I'll
I
have to provide a photo of my father so that you'll understand why I have chosen this show.
I cannot express how happy I am that you chose this because my best friend I've known since I was 12, his dad looked identical to Red Green growing up. And we were just like, your dad is Red Green.
So
I'm so
I
excited.
did look at this for pilots originally. The pilot is
Mm,
not very good. It
Oh,
took a
sure.
little bit for this
Let's
one to
take,
find
yeah.
its feet.
I believe
was
that.
like, I watched the pilot and I was like, this was not good. This is not what I'm doing. But I mean, this seems like if not now, when?
Oh, man.
Right.
So yes, Red Green, season 9, episode 7, Coup de Grace.
I am so excited. If yeah, Audie's right. That was all. If it wasn't like my kid wasn't asleep next door and it wasn't quiet, I'd have probably just jumped out of my chair.
mhm.
I'm so excited. Cannot wait. So thank you all for tuning in for this episode where we talked about Blackadder. If you have thoughts on this or upcoming Red Green, or honestly any show we've done so far, please let us know at Those Days Show on the Twitter or at thosewerethedays@gmail.com. Did we have any email this week? I didn't check the mailbox because I'm a professional who does all these kinds of things live on the
I
air.
mean, they've taught us
Uh,
that we don't have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we don't have any mail. But did we get any feedback on anything? I think Audie, you said somebody said something on Facebook about it. But
Yeah,
we
old
mentioned
high
that
school buddy
earlier.
Paul talked about how he loved it and
Yeah.
made a Baldric joke. So
I know my sister-in-law Ashley loves this show. She's been trying to get me to watch it for years. So check the box. Mission accomplished. Awesome. So always, if you do want to show up and come support us live, you can do so. Twitch.tv/2dorkstv at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays. That's where we're doing it. That's where you'll find
Mhm.
us. If you want to talk more with us, hang out with the group, sit around the water cooler, you can do that at twodorks.net/discord. We'll get you into our Discord channel where there's just a bunch of friendly people waiting to wave and say hello. And
yeah.
with that, it has been a wonderful night. Tune in next week. We will see you next time on Those Were the Days. All done.
Woo!